such a time as this.
And welcome to For Such a Time as This Round Table. I'm your host, Pastor James. I'm with Prof Chris.
Good evening.
Prof Abby.
Hello, everybody.
And the Peanut Gallery, the one-man Peanut Gallery.
Hello.
All right. We have a doozy. Doozy. It is probably the hottest topic in Christendom, and then here at For Such a Time as This, where there is no such thing as a silent witness, we tackle the hard topics. So tonight, John MacArthur, Beth Moore. Let me play a small excerpt of the clip that has started all of this brouhaha. John MacArthur.
I will say a word, and then the three of you need to give a one or a pithy response to the word. Are you ready?
I feel like I'm being set up.
Easy one. The word is Beth Moore.
That's 2 words.
Literalist. All right. Dr. MacArthur, Beth Moore?
How many words do I get?
Actually, and before you answer this, please think carefully this time, because last time you did a one-word association. The guy wrote a book about it, and we don't want that.
I was thinking of the same word.
Okay.
Go home.
Well, I see we're warmed up. Why dilly-dally?
There's no case that can be made biblically for a woman preacher. Period. Paragraph. End of discussion.
No, the word that comes to my mind is narcissistic. I think the first time I saw her, I thought, going back to the last session of what Mike said, this is what it looks like to preach yourself rather than Christ.
All right. And
in fact, she has said that. She said, I read the Bible and I try to find myself in the narrative. I put myself in the narrative. And that is exactly what she does.
I would just add one thing. Just because you have the skill to sell jewelry on the TV sales channel doesn't mean you should be preaching. There are people who have certain hawking skills, natural abilities to sell. They have energy and personality and all of that. That doesn't qualify you to preach.
All right. That was John MacArthur, his buddy Phil Johnson, and the guy from Wretched Peanut. Who is that? Wretched
Todd
Radio.
Friel?
Todd Friel, okay. And as you most can see, there's big brouhaha. Now we'll read an excerpt from Julie Royce, who is a local reporter in the Chicago area. She wrote a small response to that on her blog, and it goes this way. I will read Julie Royce's blog post. This may not rise to the level of James McDonald's hot mic recording, but it's pretty toxic. I don't have a problem with a Christian leader publicly criticizing another Christian leader's theology, but John MacArthur telling Beth Moore to go home is just mean-spirited and wrong. What's especially gross is how this crowd cheers and laughs when John MacArthur insults Moore in this way. This is not how believers should act, ever. If we're supposed to treat unbelievers with, quote, gentleness and respect, close quote, how much more a fellow believer? You call out error, but don't resort to ad hominem attacks and cruelty. I also was disheartened to hear John MacArthur discount the hashtag #MeToo movement, saying it was a sign the culture is taking over the church. That's absurd and shocking. Is this really how we think the church should respond to sexual abuse victims? This is so awful. I hope John MacArthur issues Living Proof Ministries with Beth Moore and sexual abuse victims a heartfelt apology. End of blog. Prof Chris, your response.
I don't see I don't see how that's an ad hominem attack. With if you watch and listen to what the context was of, I'm going to say a word, you give me a one-word response. How him trying to respond, go home. I don't see how that's ad hominem.
You know what? I didn't either, but Prof Abby kind of explained it to me in pre-show. Abby?
Well, when I heard go home, what came to my mind immediately was just go home where you belong, barefoot and pregnant, the whole, nonsense. So you guys all missed that, but that's what I
still don't hear that. I don't see that from John MacArthur and all that.
I don't know
that
that's what I don't think
so
that's probably what
see,
he's saying, but I'm saying that kind of has that connotation.
Of course.
But you're saying it does have the connotation.
Anything. You can read into anything you want.
Okay.
Not you specifically, Abby, but people can.
Yeah.
What I hear is as an apostate in his disagreement with, then he backs up what he means by that. What he says right after that backs up what he means by go home. You are not a pastor. You are not to preach in front, and you are not to be a preacher.
Yeah.
That's how I heard that. Go home because you're not to be a preacher.
Okay.
Yeah, and that may very well be the case. That might be exactly what he was saying. But, I think, first of all, it was a dumb question. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it was worthy of all the hubbub. Why did he even put that online? Why did they even ask that in front of a whole bunch of people? If if we have
I got an answer. Ratings.
Yeah,
that's why.
Exactly.
That's what Christianity has come down to. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
But if we have an opportunity to speak publicly, I think we need to make the most of it, especially now, given the fact that we're probably not going to have that opportunity a whole lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
Was anything that he said after he said that, and then he backed it up with, according to the Bible, women don't preach, was that not true? Because the truth can be painful for those who don't want to hear it.
I agree. I do believe that the Bible does teach that women should not lead men in the church, nor should they preach to them. On the other hand, I think that there's a much bigger issue here. I think the issue is that Beth Moore is an apostate teacher.
We're going to get
Amen.
to that.
I guess that's where we're leading to is, are we getting hung up on the discussion about
exactly?
Well, should John MacArthur really should he have held his nose when he was talking and close one eye, and he didn't hold himself properly as he sat, and
he wasn't.
In
nice
other words,
enough.
He wasn't perfect. And who is? When we speak, we get comments too that question the things that we say and question sometimes even how we present our information. And when I listen to us afterwards, I think, oh, I was terrible. Self-criticism.
Okay. Well, I am, as you all know, can be just a smidge sarcastic from time to time.
What's your middle name?
But I watched some other YouTubes regarding this specific thing that John MacArthur, that clip, which they didn't broadcast. It looked like somebody else took that on an iPhone or something, and so that wasn't John MacArthur's organization. Not to say that it won't be published at some point.
But they did it publicly, so that's not a...
Yeah, right. But it's not like they were trying to necessarily grab that and put that out there, for that, whatever. But getting back to how I can communicate, I think we can communicate truth in a nasty way. I mean, we know we can.
Yeah.
That's possible.
Yes.
And I think we should, it's very easy for me and some others to get up on their quote-unquote high horse and look down and say you're wrong. And we can be 100% accurate in what we're talking about. My only point at this point is how we say it.
So before you leave, I want to ask a question, PG. Are you criticizing John MacArthur for how he communicated what he believed?
Yeah, and or the setup he was led into, and let that go on, because
I don't know if you want to say set up, because he could have answered it another way than what he did. He could have said unfortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Yeah, Phil Johnson.
So he owns it. I think John MacArthur's a big boy. He'll say, I meant it the way I said it.
Okay, and So
what specifically is the problem you have?
Well, I mean, like Abby said, that the woman go home. It sounds dismissive.
Okay.
And
how should we sound towards those whom we think are heretics?
Just point it out.
Okay.
Just say, hey.
Okay.
You're acting like a heretic. You're saying things like a heretic, and the church at large should ignore or
rebuke you.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks.
Okay, so Abby, what is your criticism of John MacArthur?
I'd just like to say, I think that John MacArthur's response was a whole much ado about nothing. I think it's
really the one woman in the room.
Whole, honest to goodness.
Thank you, Professor Abby. I was thinking the same thing. It's just
he couldn't say it. He
over,
couldn't say it. That's what he wants to say.
Big hubbub over what did he really say?
Right, and if Beth Moore truly is a false teacher, an apostate, look at what it says in the Bible. Look how Jesus addressed those people. Look how Paul spoke about those people.
So are you defending?
Good grief, all he said was go home.
So are you defending John MacArthur? Wait, no, don't give it the mic. Are you saying that John MacArthur did nothing wrong?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I suppose he could have chosen wiser words, but all in all, I don't see it as a big deal.
He went on to explain what he meant. That's where I'm. Okay. That's my point. Is he said it and then let me explain it.
Yeah.
So I don't see that as mean-spirited, and I don't see that as wrong in a right and wrong context. Not perfect. Okay. I also it's not an ad hominem attack. He was not attacking her personally. That's what that means. He was just, what do you think? But I agree with Professor Abby that really the main focus of bringing up Beth Moore and that style, I guess, the charismatic preachers is the heresy, the apostasy that they preach.
He didn't get into that. He simply attacked.
That would be my criticism.
Yes, and we're about to go there. But his criticism was women preachers. That's what he harped upon, which would be a theological issue. But before we delve more into Julie Royce's, go ahead.
You said Jesus and Paul, the way they addressed people, right?
I think Prof Abby did.
Oh, I thought. I guess I'm hearing things. Okay, whatever.
She's smarter.
Okay. Well, they didn't when those guys had a crowd. I don't think they had people. They didn't have like a laugh track running when they were saying those things. I mean, it was.
We don't know that.
Oh, come on.
Jesus said some funny things.
Oh well, yeah, but not when he was getting on people. Not when
yes, he did. He said, "I didn't come for the well. I came for the sick."
Yeah, but
I think people would have laughed. I've come not for the righteous, but for the unrighteous. And to a Hebrew, they knew that everyone was unrighteous. And so when they say that, people look around laughing as he's mocking the Pharisees.
Okay.
I think that if I was there, I would have laughed.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Don't you ever say that my gift of sarcasm, that I don't have it.
You're not God, Dennis. You're not God.
No. But hey, we were talking about
Peanut.
We were talking about Peanut.
we were talking about Paul too there, but. So I'm going to run with that now.
Okay, if you want to, that's fine. But before I get into the specifics of Julie Royce's blog post, I do want our listeners to hear what exactly we mean by Beth Moore and her theology. So I'm going to play a clip of Beth Moore. The first clip you're going to hear is Joyce Myers speaking to Beth Moore and citing unity between her and Beth Moore. Here's the first clip.
And I could not sit here right now and tell you that I even know if you and I agree about every little fine point of our doctrines, but I can say that I agree with your spirit, I agree with your heart, I agree with, I agree with everything that you're teaching and doing in the body of Christ. And it just hurts me that people have to argue and hurt the heart of God over things that really just don't make any sense. And it's so, the world thinks we're crazy.
Yes.
It's like, if you guys can't get along, why would we want to get involved in it?
Yes, the witness of our disunity out there is deplorable. It is deplorable. And I feel exactly the same way. And
Beth Moore says she feels exactly the same way when Joyce Myers calls for unity. And let me show you the second clip of Joyce Myers of who she is and what she believes. Here's Joyce Myers preaching.
I am not poor, I am not miserable, and I am not a sinner that is alive from the pit of hell. That is what I were, and if I still was, then Jesus died in vain. He could have helped himself up until the point where he said, I commend my spirit into your hands. At that point, he couldn't do nothing for himself anymore. He had become sin. He was no longer the Son of God. He was sin. Do you know something? The minute that blood sacrifice was accepted, Jesus was the first human being that was ever born again. Now, it was sealed. I mean, it's happened.
All right, that was Joyce Myers preaching on the first clip. She said she is no longer a sinner. That's what Joyce Myers says. So her theology, you can attain to a point where you are no longer a sinner. The second clip you saw that she was preaching, she said Jesus became sin on the cross. Jesus actually became sin, and when he became sin, he was no longer, he ceased to be the Son of God. And then in the third clip you saw, she said Jesus was the firstborn again. To be born again means you were born from sin to righteousness. And she says Jesus was the firstborn. So that is who Beth Moore sought unity with publicly. Prof Abby.
And not only Joyce Meyer, she also, she was part of a conference at Joel Osteen's Lakewood Church.
Oh, boy.
She teams up with Brian Houston, Matt Crouch, and Joel Osteen for Houston's Let's Talk on the Hillsong channel. She pushes Lectio Divinity. What is it? Lectio Divina?
Yeah.
I believe.
That sounds correct.
Mystical way of connecting supposedly with God. She sees the Catholic Church as part of the church. And I think the latest thing is people are asking her to clarify her position on homosexuality.
Oh.
Because she apparently, in a reprint of a book that she had written, she took out the section that said homosexuality is sin.
Makes sense.
So, yeah. I mean, of all the things to camp out on, I think MacArthur maybe made a mistake, and it's the least of it. The fact that
you do agree that MacArthur made a mistake by making light of the situation?
I don't think it was a big mistake.
Sure.
But of all the things that he could have gone after her for, and that's the least of it.
Yes.
In my mind.
Anything else before I delve into what's going on the internet as people run to Beth Moore's defense? Mm-hmm. All right, let's look at the blog post.
Let me just say, Pastor James, that I think most of this comes down to what you think about Beth Moore.
Oh, absolutely.
What side you're
absolutely.
on.
So here's my question: Would the Julie Royces of the world been okay if he just very seriously and calmly said she's on the outside a whited paint supplica, but on the inside she's full of dead man's bones? Would they have been okay with that? Would they have been okay if John MacArthur would have said, your father's the devil, Beth Moore? Your father's the devil. Would they have been okay if she said that? Let me read her response, and then we'll go into it. She says this, that John MacArthur's it may not have arisen to James McDonald's hot mic recording. The hot mic recording was what? When he was talking about putting kiddie porn on his enemy's computer. So that's what he said. It may not have risen to it, but for you to even put it in the same sentence.
Good grief, Julie.
She said that's pretty toxic. It's toxic. And then she says, in the next sentence, she says, I don't have a problem with Christian leaders publicly criticizing another Christian leader's theology. So the clips you just heard, Julie Royce is equating Beth Moore, the one who's hugging up to and seeking unity with a person who, what did she say? She said she's not a sinner. She said Jesus became sin and was no longer the Son of God, and Jesus was the firstborn from the dead. That's the person that Julie Royce is now saying is another Christian leader. She calls Beth Moore clearly a believer. How much more a fellow believer? She's calling Beth Moore not only a believer, but a spiritual teacher. I don't see. I don't see. But then she does something. I think before I go on furthermore, any responses? Go ahead, PG.
I mean, you just said that Beth Moore said those things. I thought that was Joyce Myers, that clip that you played about not being a sinner.
Yes, Joyce Myers said that, but this is the person that Beth Moore is seeking unity.
But I thought you were saying that Beth Moore had said that.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
If I communicated that I was wrong. That's who Beth Moore is seeking unity with on a public stage. And so by pointing out, we may have disagreement with John MacArthur and how he said it, but in this response, she is throwing shade to a person, and Abby listed far more than just Joyce Myers. She's an ecumenicalist. Her theology is questionable at best. No, that's being too nice. Her theology is in the realm of her heresy, flat out. And if she has not specifically pointed out errors in heresy, she's embracing those who clearly do. Clearly. And that's indefensible. She chooses to criticize how John MacArthur speaks towards Beth Moore, while at the same time ignoring and giving shade and calling this woman another Christian leader's theology. That's where the problem is. I'm not defending John MacArthur, but I'm also not going to give shade to a woman who is, I believe, leading many people in error and affirming those who are flat out heretics. Prof Chris, anything else before? Because there's something else I think Julie Royce does that's more insidious.
Well, and to the point is, it again, John MacArthur, I agree when he says that the truth was never meant to bring together. It is by its nature division, because if I hear the truth and I agree and I believe it, Christ has died for me. But if I don't want to, if my darkened heart, my sinful heart wants what I want, it will naturally, the truth will divide people. Those who believe and those who don't, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's not a feel-good, what's the feel-good theology we call it? I heard it the other day. I can't remember what it was.
Easy believism? No.
Easy believism or prideology or something like that, where it's your feelings matter. And to quote a popular podcaster, the facts don't care about your feelings. Mm-hmm. But really the truth is the truth, and the truth will divide. Mm-hmm. Yes, we are called to judge and call out and have these intense discussions with fellow leaders and Christians and even non-believers, but with love and patience. And I struggle with, so he's not perfect? That's what you're going to hang your hat on? To criticize and to call these things out? It's...
But worse than, you're correct. But in worse than that, she's affirming heretics.
Yep.
That
should have been the focus.
Yeah,
I agree. Prof Abby nailed it. Yeah. That's really the focus of this thing, not what John MacArthur or how he said it, but who they're talking about.
But here, I want to read this second to last paragraph, and I see shades of the left in this. It goes. Julie Royce writes this. I also was disheartened to hear MacArthur discount the #MeToo movement, saying it was a sign of the culture overtaking the church. That's absurd and shocking. Is this really how we think the church should respond to sexual abuse victims? This is so awful. Did John MacArthur even address sexual abuse victims in his response to Beth Moore?
No. I didn't hear it.
Maybe we didn't hear it.
Well,
I heard the whole 7 minutes.
Again, as I expanded my knowledge on this stuff today, it was Beth Moore has a history, I guess, from what I understand. She had been abused, so
I understand that.
Well, so the thing is, if
Joyce
she
Myers
is
as well.
So if you attack them, I think the implication is.
Oh,
I don't want to put words.
No, you're right. That is what she's doing.
I'm just wondering
to defend Beth Moore. She's bringing up the fact that Beth Moore.
I don't know if that's what she's saying, because listen. She says
John
I was
MacArthur
also.
Does say.
Did you hear that part?
He did talk about the Me Too movement.
No, he did.
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
Now that I think about it, he did.
No, I
so
know
that as a separate issue, it wasn't connected to her, to Beth Moore.
No, he didn't say he didn't care that Beth Moore's. He didn't talk about Beth Moore's past at all. He's just saying this is how the Me Too movement is now affecting the church.
Yeah.
But to say, is this really how we think the church should respond to sexual abuse victims? The hashtag Me Too, is that a sexual abuse movement?
Yes. But is she saying that is this how John MacArthur, is she talking about Beth Moore here? Is his response, what he said, is that she's equating that, she's talking about Beth Moore as the sexual abuse victim. Is that what you're saying?
There's a lot of
Yeah, but he did bring up the Me Too movement. This is
He
how
did
the Me
bring
Too
it up.
movement, but
And how it's affecting the church,
but
in his opinion.
Yes, but is John MacArthur making light of sexual abuse victims?
No.
No,
I
no.
would never think.
Yeah,
That's
Julie.
the insidious thing
Julie
that
needs
she's
to
doing.
be.
Yes.
Julie needs to be I mean, she needs to clarify,
At
or
best.
at least clarifying questions need to be asked. Why did Julie
Even
put
go
that there?
Yes.
Because John MacArthur. I don't understand why John said that. Because I don't know how the Me Too movement has affected the culture of the church. That, I mean, if anything, it's in a good way, I think. Because if someone's been abused, as I understand the Me Too movement, it's like, hey, I've been abused and I'm going to speak up about it.
Follow me. I think what John MacArthur was saying was that they're attaching a lot of things to the Me Too movement and simply to get power. Perfect case of this is Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
The Kavanaugh thing with the woman coming forward. You got to believe all victims. This one wasn't a victim. She was the perpetrator here against Kavanaugh at his hearing. And I think that's what he's saying. So now let's attach everything to the Me Too movement to influence the church now. And so to use your status as a Me Too movement advocate, now give me whatever I want. And I think that was the angle he was doing. Was he making light of sexual abuse victims? No. I don't think he was. But they're trying to use this. They're trying to use this in order to influence the church. That was his train of thinking. If you look at the whole 7 minutes, and I'll attach the whole 7 minutes. But that's what's going on. But go ahead.
Just to clarify my little mind, so you're saying that if you've been sexually abused, you get a higher, you're put up on a pedestal, and you're given credence or giving an allowance to allow.
You can no longer be
questioned,
criticized. Yes, and I think that was his line of thinking. Now, again, can we argue whether or not he should have even brought that into the conversation? We can debate that. But
well, if again, Mr. Ignorant here, but if that is what part of what justifies, assuming a bunch of things here, that's what justifies Beth Moore's position is her having been abused, then that all fits, I suppose.
What all fits?
That it fits that
don't
she
criticize her because she was a victim of abuse.
Right.
And the key really of the victim of abuse is
anybody.
Well,
no, not anybody. You're a white male. You don't have that status.
No, nobody can accuse. The accuser is always right, and then they're always held up, which is not wrong. I mean, that's not right.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody can be
and this is what,
questioned.
And this is what, but this is what it seems like Julie Royce is now saying. She's in a special class of abuse victims. Yeah. Therefore, you cannot do what you did, John MacArthur, and be so mean towards her.
He's not abusing sexual abuse. He is not being mean to sexual abuse victims. I am a survivor of it, and I did not see it at being. But I guess I don't have a voice if I'm a man.
Yeah, you're a white male. You have no privilege.
So going through it, going through that, being abused, going through it, it's you shouldn't believe me just because I say and make an accusation.
Yeah, that's identity politics.
I understand that.
That's identity
but
politics.
That's what Julie Royce
and I agree.
She bought into.
And
that's unfortunate.
And I just want to say that I really appreciate what Julie Royce has done as far as just bringing light to such dark things that were going on in our local churches. It's amazing. I mean, and horrifying, and her courage, and at Moody, and so. I mean, I don't want to pile on Julie Royce, but I do think that she's not seeing things clearly.
We should have clarified. The only reason why I know about the blog is because I follow her. her. Yep. So that's what I know about it. So, yes, let's be very, very clear. Very, very clear. Very appreciative We went to an IFI banquet in which I sat at the table with her. She's a very nice person, knowledgeable, but in this case, spiritually, she is defending someone who does not need to be defended or confused with a Christian leader.
And let me give an additional plug for her. I guess she's got a radio program, which I didn't know. It's been going for a few weeks now, and she's got a podcast too. So
Yes, she does.
of the radio program.
Yes, she does. And so I wonder if she will talk about this, and I wonder if someone would give pushback and ask. You know what? I would love to ask Julie.
You can
Royce
call
this.
in. I mean, most of the times
know
you
what?
can
Maybe
call
we
in.
Should. I will. Someone needs to call into Julie Royce's program and say, "Do you believe that Beth Moore is a solid Christian teacher?" That needs to be the questions that she should ask. Matter of fact, that's it. That's it. I'm going to email her tonight for such a time as this and ask her that question. And then a lot of it depends on how she answers. If she says yes, we got a problem. If she says no, we have a problem. A little less of a problem, but it's a problem. Then why did you come off in your blog as though you were defending a solid Christian teacher? So either way, it's a catch-22. I don't see how you get around it. But yes, someone needs to send her a message. Yeah, I think I should. Yes, I'm going to do that tonight. So closing words, closing comments. PG.
Nothing.
Nothing.
No. Okay, let me say this.
I was about to have a heart attack.
So was I. I would have been shocked. Nothing?
Peanut Gallery has nothing to say. Wow. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, that would be a minor miracle.
Yeah.
Anyway, just to get it clarified, number one, women are not allowed, as the Bible states, as God is saying, to have spiritual authority over men, and that is the point of what I think what John MacArthur was saying, and even Phil Johnson basically was.
But you know what's shocking about that? I read Julie Royce's blog. She would agree with that. So
I'm just you said last comments, and I'm just saying.
No, I agree. Yeah, I'm saying it's more
that's just
shocking.
me talking.
No, I agree with you. Okay, Prof Abby.
I just think we have bigger things to worry about than John MacArthur telling Beth Moore to go home.
Yeah. Prof Chris.
I couldn't have said it any better.
Thank you once again for being at the round table for such a time as this, where there is no such thing as a solid witness. Just to let you all know, as a programming note, we're looking at doing this show live on Facebook in the near future so that people can call in, or we'll take questions as people, what do you call it? Text. What do you text?
I am.
Yeah, you go instant message. So, but we here at the round table have to nail down a solid time that we're going to meet every week so that people will know when to tune in. Until then, thank you and God bless.
For such a time as this.